All right, let's see if I remember how to do this. Welcome back to Inside Out Precision, guys. My name is Kellen, in case you forgot. We're still here at G4 Outdoors, well, G4 Archery, where I work. And it has been a crazy summer. I think this is the first video I've launched in 2 months, maybe a little over 2 months. Just a lot going on. I was really focusing on work, family, then hunting season. And it all paid off. We had a great year, both business-wise and, just with the transition and everything. I was able to kill a good bull. Everything falling into place. So now that everything is slowed down, I killed my bull. Life is good. We're gonna start getting back to our weekly schedule. And I know I've said that before, but I actually have like multiple videos filmed and ready to go. So tonight we're going to be talking about what to look for, or at least what I like to look for when I'm choosing a bow. There is so much stuff in marketing now telling you this is what you want to like and this is what you need in order to be accurate. And a lot of it is just that, it's just marketing. There are a lot of things, where it might be a nice quality to have, it's not gonna do anything in terms of like more accuracy or consistency for you. So with all of the new 2024 bows launching here in the next couple months, I know there's gonna be a lot of people looking, so I thought this might give you a good platform to kind of, make a pros and cons list of things that you're looking for when you're trying out different bows. So the most popular question I get is, how smooth is it and how quiet is it? So when I'm looking at a bow, those two things, the smooth and the quiet, and I'm talking about smooth on the shot, like how much vibration it has. Those are the two most heavily marketed, yet least critical things about what makes a bow shoot well. When it comes to noise, I don't care how quiet your bow is, it's not quiet enough that a deer can't hear it. So if that deer has an idea that something is up, or if they're looking at you or they catch you right as you come to full draw, I don't care how quiet your bow is, the deer is jumping that string. There's no bow on the market now that is so loud that it's gonna take a perfectly calm deer and make them jump the string when you shoot. The noise thing is honestly, like, it's impressive that they can get a bow to shoot as fast as they can and have it be as quiet as it can. And it is a nice thing to have, but it has absolutely zero bearing on that bow's performance, meaning, how the bow aims, how the bow tunes, how the bow, feels to you when you draw it. All those things that really matter and how a bow is gonna shoot for you, the noise really has nothing to do with. It is something that you hear, the quietest bow ever built. You hear that all the time from people. Really, you're talking a couple decibels here or there. There's no bows on the market anymore, like I said, that are really, really loud. Some are louder than others. Obviously, as you start getting into a faster bow, they will start to get noisier. But in my opinion, that's probably the last thing I'm looking at, is how quiet a bow is. Smooth. So while it is nice to have a bow that is dead in the hand, again, it does not have any bearing on how that bow performs. Target bows, most target bows, like especially my Supra RTX, that PSE, that thing is a freaking rattle trap when it goes off. But guess what? By the time you feel that vibration, that arrow is already way off the bow. Now, some bows, some of the older bows, with the real forward-facing limbs, when they would shoot, they would literally like buck forward, kind of launch forward. I don't know of any modern bows made in the last 5 or 6 years that really do that. Some bows will have a little more of like a thump in the hand. It's almost like somebody's just lightly flicking your thumb pad. And some will have a little more residual vibration. Now, it's just a comfort thing. It is nice having a really smooth bow, but again, that is not something that's gonna make a bow aim any better or tune any better or feel comfortable to you at full draw, like all the things that matter when you're actually shooting the bow. All the stuff, all the vibration that you're feeling in hand shock and all that comes after that arrow is gone. So again, while that's where the marketing has gone with a lot of these companies, everything they're doing is towards deadening the vibration. Oh, 11% reduction in vibration. Well, that's a very small percentage of an already very small number. All bows these days are smooth compared to bows 10 years ago. Some might be a little bit smoother than others, but I don't know of any really, really violent hunting bows out there currently. So again, that's not top of the list of things I'm looking for. Now, I will say a bow that's really quiet and smooth when it goes off, if you're someone who's dealing with target panic, I want to say it could help a little bit, just because the less violent that explosion is, essentially. I know it's not recoiling like a rifle does, but it is a little miniature explosion, and our body doesn't like being surprised by that. So the less, you know, just like people that shoot a 22 versus a 30-06, they're more afraid of the recoil of that 30-06 than they are the 22, so they have a tendency to kind of flinch a little bit when they squeeze the trigger. I think that could be the only time, or maybe a little bit smoother and quieter bow would come in. So those are two things that I think are, marketing wise, that's what they're pushing, when really it has nothing to do on how that bow is going to aim or shoot for you. So now let's get into things that I personally look for. Now, if you're a newer shooter, it's going to be kind of harder to tell these little nuances between the different bows. Lots of first timers, you know, I hand them 3 different bows and they all feel the same to me. I'm going to go with the cheapest one, and that's fine. But if you're somebody who's shot quite a bit, maybe you've had 2 or 3 bows over the years, you know some things you liked about one and didn't like about the other, or vice versa. These might be some things to kind of look for and keep notes on when you're trying bows. So for me, first and foremost, is I figure out the spec of bow that I like. When I say the specs, I'm talking about the axle to axle length. Lots of times that will tie right into the brace height, which, if you're not familiar with what that is, that's the distance between the deepest part of the grip, so like the top of the grip, and the string when the bow is at rest. Generally speaking, a longer bow is going to have a longer brace height. That's because lots of times a longer axle to axle bow has less what we call reflex. So the reflex is this shape that you see here. So I can never remember if it's from the front of the limb pocket to the back of the grip, or the back of the limb pocket to the back of the grip. But anyway, the more reflex a bow has, meaning the more of this shape you see, the smaller that brace height will be. Longer bows generally have less reflex in the riser, which increases the brace height, which helps increase forgiveness. I think a lot of people confuse the forgiveness with brace height. They think that a bow with a 7-inch brace height versus a 6-inch brace height, because that arrow's getting off the string an inch sooner, it has less time to be affected. And really that's not it. Like, you're talking microseconds for 1 inch with how fast that speed is going. The reason you get more forgiveness with a higher brace height, so like a 7, or like a target bow, a lot of them have 7.5, 8-inch brace heights, is the less reflex a riser has. So the straighter a riser is, the less torque will affect it. So just for ease of numbers, let's say I put 2 pounds of pressure on the left edge of the grip on a 5.5-inch brace height bow, and then I do that same 2 pounds on a 7-inch brace height bow. The bow will be torqued less by the bow with a 7-inch brace height, meaning my point of impact will not be affected as drastically on target with a bow with a straighter riser and a higher brace height. Now, just like anything in life, there's give take, right? So as I increase my forgiveness and brace height, generally I decrease my performance. And when I say performance, I mean speed. You know, usually bows that are 6 3/4 to 7-inch brace height, you know, they're gonna IBO in the high 320s or low 330s, whereas bows with a 5.5 or 6-inch brace height, a lot of times are gonna be, you know, high 330s to 340s, maybe 350. So it's about that blend, I guess, of speed and forgiveness. Now, for someone like me, so people always ask, well, what's better, a long or short axle to axle bow? That is totally going to depend on the individual. Generally speaking though, a longer draw length is going to feel more comfortable on a longer axle to axle bow. And that's because a really short bow, the further I pull back that string, the more acute that string angle gets. So for me, with like the Phase 429, when I come in and anchor and my head is upright, if my finger's the string, that string takes off at an angle like this, and then I have to duck to get into my anchor point. And for me, that's just, it's not comfortable. And when I'm not comfortable, I'm not accurate. So generally speaking, you know, guys that are 26 to 27.5, something like that, they feel really comfortable with a 30-inch axle to axle bow. In my experience, just from what I see here and my personal experience, most guys that are 28.5 and up generally gravitate towards bows that are, you know, 32 to 34 inches in axle to axle length. Personally, I'm happy to sacrifice 5 feet a second for a bow that I can get away with a lot more if I do something stupid. So once I've figured out kind of the spec of the bow that I like, all these companies are making a short and a long version of essentially the same bow. You know, Hoyt, you have the VTM 31 and the 34. Bowtech, you have the CP 30 and the SS 34. Matthews, you have the 29 and the 33. Same with PSE, they've got a 30 and a 33. So once you figure out, okay, I like this spec of bow, then you're gonna start shooting all the different brands that are in that spec range. And what I'm looking for, 2 big things for me are draw cycle. I don't want a bow where I'm like, to get it back. I don't like it when it stacks real hard right at the end. And most importantly for me is how that bow feels in my hand, like how that grip feels and how it likes to settle on target. Some bows, for whatever reason, when you get it back, it's just effortless. It's like everything settles in. That pin it seems like you could just hold it there all day. I don't mean let off wise, I just mean like the balance of the bow, the way that bow feels. Obviously playing with stabilizers and stuff, you can manipulate that feel a little bit, but you should be able to hold the bow without anything on it and aim it pretty well. You know, I think back to when the Matthews Triax came out. You know, I'd never had a bow that short. It was 28 inches axle to axle, and it was a fun little bow. But I just constantly fought that bow. I was always wanting to, you know, it was hard to get it to stay level. Like I'd go one side and then I'd overcorrect back the other. I just couldn't get that pin to settle down. Anything past about 40 yards, like very mediocre groupings for me. And then I thought I was just in a slump as a shooter, and then when I got the Traverse, which is a 33 the next year, it was like night and day. So that was the last short bow I ever shot. So, like I said, shoot the different bows. I really look for a bow that aims well, one that has a draw cycle that I can live with. Obviously, a little bit stiffer draw cycle, you're gonna generally get a little more speed out of it. But again, if you're not comfortable, you will not be accurate. So if you get a really, really fast bow that you can't hit anything with, you're just going to miss really, really fast. So while the marketing side of things is going to tell you, oh, you need the smoothest, quietest bow, like I said, those really have no bearing on how well you're going to be able to shoot that bow. They are nice, they're, you know, and sometimes you can find a bow with it all. Like the Phase 4 33, I shot that all year, I hunted with it. I'm shocked at how well that bow shoots. I mean, Levi Morgan just won a, you know, World Target or World 3D Championship with a hunting bow. So it's forgiving, it's got good speed. You know, my arrow is 472 grains, I think, and it was going 292 out of that at 30 inches and 75 pounds. So, I mean, it's ripping. And like I said, I could probably shoot a faster bow, but I don't need that much more speed. You know, I killed a bull with a mechanical broadhead, full pass through, right through the heart, uphill 30 yards. Like I don't need anything more. I have that Bowtech SS34 that I've been playing with. We've got a little tournament here and I've got it set up for target right now. And I mean, that thing's shooting really well, but I did have to do a couple things, which I'm gonna go over in another video to really get it to where it's holding and performing the way I like it to. But I could tell just when I first drew that bow back, I was like, oh yeah, this thing has potential. So those are the things I look for are how does the bow aim, first off. You know, most of these places, if there's not already a sight on the demo bow, you can ask them to throw a little sight on there and you can take it out to the range and just, you know, just see how well you can hold with it on target. If the draw length fits you and, you know, you like the specs of the bow, then like I said, shoot 3 or 4 brands all in that same spec range and see which one just feels better to you. Once again, I know I've said it 1,000 times, but if you're not comfortable, you won't be accurate. So with all these new bows coming out, yes, like watch the videos on the new technology on it and whatnot. But if you can't aim the bow, you can't shoot the bow. Like you can only shoot as well as you can aim to a certain extent. So when you're looking at this, maybe focus less on how quiet and smooth the bow is and focus more on, okay, how well can I hold this bow? How comfortably can I draw this bow? And just how does that grip feel in my hand? You know, how does the balance of the bow feel for your shot style? And hopefully you'll be able to find one. I think there's gonna be a lot of great, cool bows this year. And yeah, hopefully you can find one that checks all those boxes for you, and you'll get the best setup for you. You know, there's no such thing as the best setup. There's the best setup for you, and that's what you're trying to achieve when you're trying these different bows out. So hope that helps you guys. Thank you again for watching. If you haven't already, head on over to inside_out_precision on Instagram. We will be posting more and more to that. Like I said, I was on a little bit of a sabbatical of sorts, but I am back, baby, and ready to make some videos. So as usual, remember, precision is a decision. Keep them in the middle. I'll see you on the range.